Yeah, we would win a couple games every now and then, but now it's like our fans look for us to win every game. They look for us to be a sectional contender.
When there's no room to breathe, and you stay alive, you stay alive, and you stay alive, you stay alive. Every little thing counts, every little thing counts, every little thing counts. It's mine.
Davis, and Mr. Davis graduated in 1909, if you can remember that far back. And some of his high school things he did in high school, he was in throwing the hammer. Of course, they don't have a hammer today in high school. But in throwing the hammer, he was third place in the state as his junior year. His senior year, he won it. And he was only an inch and a half short of the record, tying the record. And he played football and basketball in high school. And when he was playing in high school basketball, the basketball team played Indiana University freshman team, if you look on find the schedule. Then he went on to Purdue IU, and he played football, wrestling, and track. And he's one of the few athletes from Indiana University lettered in all three in 1 year. And while he was there, he won the Big Ten champ wrestling his sophomore, junior, and senior year. And that record still holds yet today. That would be back in the 1912, 13, 14, over there. And and when he was later in IU, he got put in IU Hall of Fame, and also he got the Clevenger Award there, just same as Everett Dean did. And after his college days, he went on to play pro football. Pro football started back in the middle 1914, 15, 16 on out. And pro football then started about on the Illinois and Indiana line, went across northern Indiana, Ohio, and through Pennsylvania. That's where the team was located at. And he played pro football for 3 years, and also he coached at pro football. And he did quite well. And so after pro football, he went to med school and became a doctor, and he practiced med at Muncie, Indiana. That's where he settled down and spent the rest of his life in Muncie, and that's where he died at. And let's see what. And everybody wonder who Mr. Davis is, more than likely. They've never heard of him before, because I'll give it. The only reason he came back for Salem after he went to IU is for family reunion or funerals. But he never come back here to live or anything. But he was. If you go to Campbellsburg, go out here and go to Campbellsburg, and right top of the hill there was a mobile home park. That was a part of his family farm at them days. Used to be a little house right up on the northeast corner of the mobile home park, about 30 by 30. It got tore down here about 2 years ago. That's where he was born and raised at. And he lost his father when he was 12 years old. So that's the short story about him and his highlights. And I got a question. How many people sitting here today is under 67 years old? There's several. Okay. Well, 67 years ago, my 8th grade basketball coach is sitting right down there. Stand up, Charlie Hunt. Take a bow. Thank you.
Our next speaker is going to be Brian Motzinger.
Normally don't like to get up and speak, but I can't wait to talk about RJ. I came back in '97, and before that my two brothers would coach youth league, and they kept telling me about this little guy, Hartsfield. I was coming down to watch my nephews, and then in '97 I started going to all these middle school youth games, and I'm down. '97, would you have been 6th, 7th grade? One of them. Anyway, I'm down by the long jump pit, just standing there watching. I see this little guy, and he was small, but I see him beelining someone across the field, and he hit this kid right in front of me. And if you know RJ, he starts letting the kid know about that he hit him hard. And it just, I mean, it really excited me. But he had a toughness about him that was unrivaled. He had a work ethic, and he got that from his mother. Did a great job with him, and I didn't have to do much other than push him. RJ, when he got in high schools, I got to know him. He's the luckiest guy I think I've ever met. He would find four-leaf clovers everywhere, and then he convinced me, you know, Coach, if you eat these, it's for good luck. And I didn't even let the number 13 on a jersey when I was a head coach here, so I was all about that. And then we're out golfing at Western Hills, and we're on hole 6. And we're getting ready to go up that hill, and all of a sudden this real nice putter falls out of this tree, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So he picks that up. But then at practice, we worked him pretty hard. We would hit every single day. We conditioned. And I'd take him out for a little break, and he would be standing by me, and he'd jump up and do a backflip. And I'm like, you know, would you quit doing that? Because, he was the bell cow, and I'm thinking he's going to roll an ankle or wrench his knee or something. But he was like the Energizer Bunny. We couldn't work him hard enough. And that's just how he goes about his life. But he had a great feel for the game. He had great vision. We ran power toss and trap, and with that toss, you had to be able to see what was happening in front of you. But he was made for football. His attitude, his toughness, he was a great leader. He led by example. He pushed guys. Guys followed his lead. One thing that drove me nuts about him, he returned, I didn't take him off the field. He returned kicks. He played safety, running back, but he would let the kick hit the ground. And I'm like, would you catch it in the air? And I'm like, what's going on? He told me he liked to see where the defense was. And I was all right with that because usually he was able to do a good job with it. So I didn't mess with him there. But he was a tremendous high school football player. You know, I came by the record board on my way in here, and his name is up there 12 times. I get a little choked up talking about it. But his senior year was phenomenal. Those group of guys, they played so well together. They got along great. And then he gets done with us, and I go up to his first college game at Franklin, and they've got him on the kickoff return team in the second line on the visitor sideline. And a lot of times teams will pooch kick that. Well, they did that to RJ. Should have fair caught it. If you'd have fair caught it, this wouldn't have happened. And the kid stuck his helmet right on his hand, and I'm in the stands with Lowry and Humphrey. You see him just shaking his hand. I'm telling him he broke it because he would never show pain. He's just pacing. He's trying to get away from the trainer. I know what he's doing. But when he got done playing for Coach Leonard, who's a great guy, Coach caught me at a football coaching clinic, and I can't remember if he said he was the best leader or one of the best leaders that he ever coached, which was a pretty big deal coming from Mike Leonard. But RJ, when I was telling his mom, when he coached here, he did a lot of stuff behind the scenes that no one ever knew about. We had this kid, and he wasn't a player, but he didn't have a real good home life. He didn't have much, and he didn't have a lot of friends, and RJ brought him on as our filmer, and the kid ended up being a really good filmer. But he would take him for haircuts, and the kid always wanted to kayak, and he just didn't have much to go out and buy that stuff. Well, he ended up with a kayak, great-looking haircut, and by the end of the year, he had friends all over the place. I'd never seen anything like it, just a few months. But RJ, if you don't know him, his exterior's tough and rough. But if you know him, his heart is just huge. I mean, he's got a great heart, and I'm real proud of him, and I love him. I tell him that. So I'm going to introduce you right now. This is your time.
I'm not going to use the podium. I'm going to stand out here. First off, thank you guys. What an honor. It's awesome. This is a neat experience. You know, being here surrounded by people that play together, love them. I'll start with some thank yous. You know, thanks to my mom. She worked 3 jobs when we were kids. I'm proud of her. We lived in Pekin when we were kids, which was terrible. We had to wear purple, and I did have Dennis down there, and Dennis would whip me up all the time. You know, I was younger than him. But, you know, just even in youth league, getting to practice wasn't easy for us. And so, you know, she would drive us 35 minutes. I played football only because we were 35 minutes out, and she made it happen for us. So, John, John's my stepdad. I lost the bet, Austin. John's my stepdad, but he was my dad, and still is my dad. John passed away last year, and he was one of those guys that didn't push you to play. He didn't care, but if you did it, you were going to be good at it, and you didn't do your best. He was a guy that he didn't have to do what he did for us. I'll leave it at that. My wife, Savannah, she graduated high school twice, graduated college twice. Once for her and once for me. You know, Savannah's awesome. She's the best thing that happened to me in my life. I can sit up here and say a lot of words about her and things like that, but when I was in high school, in college, you know, the one thing she always wanted me to say was that I loved her more than football, and I was just like, you know, so I love you more than football, babe. Bob and Carol, you know, they're mom and dads to me, and they dealt with a lot of crap. I wasn't not your model citizen, we'll say, when I was in high school, and maybe still not, but you know, they took me in like a son then, and then eventually, you know, let me be a son to them, really. So I love you guys and thank you. A couple other people that I'm just going to shout out. Mick Napier was my Little League football coach. He passed away. Awesome. Bubba, love him or hate him. I love him. And sometimes I love to hate him, you know, but Bubba's a big part of my life, and I can't stand seeing him in those colors out there, but it is what it is. Coach Hump and Coach Lowry, those were guys that, you know, they took a little dude in and showed me what football was supposed to be, and I could ever say enough to thank those guys. Coach Motts should be a Hall of Famer himself. I love that dude, and he was great for me, and he was a great leader for our team. All right, there's my thank you. That was my choke up. All right, next part. Just as a young kid, you know, football was the thing for me. I wasn't good at baseball and basketball, and I didn't care to play it. I just wanted to play football, and I knew that playing football I was able to just smash people and sometimes get smashed, and it was all good, and it was a stress relief. It taught you more about life, in my opinion, than anything that you could ever imagine, especially for me. I knew that, you know, I was little. Like Mott said, I was little, but I was little. And I knew that I liked scoring touchdowns, and the only way I was going to do that was play running back. And so I'm like a P-Dad out here playing running back, and the only thing I had was I was fast. And So Little League is where kind of my journey started. And there's a lot of guys in here that had part in that, and I haven't mentioned everybody, but you know who you are, and I thank you for that. Middle school hits, I was still a little small kid. I was fast, but I was small, not able to really be a running back in those days. You know, like we've got dudes with beards, and like I'm 4'2", and it's just not probably going to work. So played a lot of positions in middle school, but I remember one memory. You know, I've lost a lot of memories over the days, but one memory I'll never forget is I used to go down and sit and watch the high school practice when we got done with middle school, and Coach Mott's come walking up, and I remember telling him I'm going to be the best running back ever here. And that guy, you know, he knew there was some talent. He knew I had some talent, but he also gave me the opportunity to be able to play. He asked me to be the ball boy, and so I did. And that's kind of where my life kind of changed. You see what happens in a locker room, you see what happens in all these different avenues that these kids just become family. And you knew that at that moment I knew, I was like, I want to be part of something bigger than myself. And that was football for me. My freshman year, I was a whole, I wrote it down, I was 5'1", 105 pounds. And I found that when I became the head coach here, I was cleaning out some crap in the locker room, and I found the roster. And so I had proof that I was still a little midget then. And, you know, so I remember going to practice, and the seniors, we had 2 senior inside linebackers that were both just brutal, and they would just tee off on me every single day. And I wasn't going to sit out, so we just kept it going. Well, I remember that, like, going home, told my mom would always be like, your underwear. Couldn't tell her really what was happening, but what would happen was if they didn't smash me head on, I would get to the edge, and I was faster than them, so they would grab my shorts, and so when they pull me down, they'd rip my underwear. So she bought plenty of underwear through those years. You know, so, you know, my mom knew I was small. Coach Motz asked her if I could play special teams, and without me knowing, she's like, no, because I was just so small. She had no clue what was going on in practice, so the practice was way worse. So as a sophomore, I finally got a shot to play on varsity, and I was 5'6", 147 pounds, and met some of my best friends during that time. Spud, he was a running back, and you know, he showed me what it took to be a running back at the varsity level. And from there, we kind of developed a name for the offensive line. A lot of them are here, appreciate it. We called them Fat Boys, or I called them Fat Boys, and I did it in the paper, on the news, all those kind of things. So some people didn't like it, but it was one of those things that kind of transitioned into just being teammates into being family. And those guys, you know, they deserve to be standing up here next to me. They're family, and you knew going from our sophomore year, we knew going in the next year we were going to have good years. And so as a junior and senior, you know, I had great years and broke some records, did all that kind of thing. But would have never been in that situation without the Fat Boys and what they do. From those years and as a junior and senior, kind of shaped like what I knew that I wanted to do forever. And that was be around people that would pat you on the back when you're doing well. They'd pat you on the back when you needed picked up, but they'd tell you you're an idiot if you're being an idiot. And that's what being on a team's about. And that's what, you know, I loved about the game of football. And, you know, football allowed me to meet some of the best friends in the world. Travis McKnight, Ponder, the only person I've ever seen scoop and score an onside kick, still to this day. You know, and I'm forever indebted to the game of football. And like my job now, I coach football for a living, and that's, you know, if I would have never been able to go through the experiences that I had with football, then I wouldn't be where I'm at in life right now. The best part about football for me was it saved me, and I don't mean that I wouldn't have made it, but it showed you what you needed to be better, and a better person, a better athlete. And football is like the game of life. And when I got to college, Coach L was the same. He would say that, and I never. It's one of them cliches that every coach says, but you get out, and you look back, and the adversities that you deal with as a player, adversities you deal with as a not getting to play when you think you should be playing, and you complain about it or you fix it. And so, football for me was one of those things that it taught me a simple lesson, and that was when something didn't work out, you figure it out because you got people counting on you, and that's life. I'm going to end by saying this. I'm going to read it. I'll try to read it without stuttering and all that, but I'm going to read it. I'll end by saying no matter what life throws at you, it's your job to believe in yourself. Be the best you, not what others think, the true best you that you can be. When life kicks, you fight back. When it's good, share the love and the ride and the joy with the people that you love. Thank you to Salem. Thank you to Coach Wheaton for all that you've done to make Salem a better place. Love you guys. There was a bet on whether I tear up or not. And I lost.
I kind of made a joke about Chris Rock and Will Smith, but I am going to tell a hair joke since Coach Mossinger didn't touch it. So his first time he saw RJ was different than when I saw him. I was helping, I had the privilege of coaching with Coach Mossinger, football, and this little guy was showing up in an old jersey, little big guy with the football and all that, and he had a rat tail longer than anyone I've ever seen.
Not as long as Dennis's.
I think you still got him beat, but that thing was long, so I just had to throw that in there. Also meant to failed to mention earlier, we do have two Hall of Famers that's already in the Hall of Fame right now with us, joining us today, so we do have that honor. Carla Holmes was inducted actually this fall. She was part of the COVID postponement, so we finally got her in. And then Christy Knoll is here also, and she was in our revamped first class. It's been a number of years since we've done it, so I think 2019, so just glad to have you guys here. Our next speaker is Chris Mehurin.
Okay, so 20 versions later, I finally gave up rewriting this, and I'm going to warn you that nothing I say will truly relay the type of person and athlete that Molly Huey was for Salem High School. For those of us who got to be part of her years here, we have memories for a lifetime. And this award probably means as much to us as it does to her. The rest of you have all the shared stories and the stats that show her greatness. Some of Molly's top running accomplishments are in the program you have in front of you. And I want you to note that 25 years later, she's still on the board in 4 track events and is unmatched in girls cross-country success at Salem. And I know RJ has a ton of awards, but you were only allowed to run 4 in track. Keep in mind, Molly, if she got sick or hurt or tired, she had to perform anyway against tough competition. No one could take her place on race day or sub her out during the race for a breather. She had to push through, and Molly did that like no one else did. Working with someone the caliber of Molly builds a relationship that's indescribable. There was lots of pressure, but it was mainly on her. It was just my job to help her get through it. It was a continuous learning experience to try to keep the injuries to a minimum, build strength and endurance and speed, encourage her to eat and sleep and actually kind of take care of herself a little bit. because she did a few other things besides run miles and then turn around and run more miles. She was a top student and leader in her class. She was homecoming queen and sweetheart. And she even played basketball 3 years, even though I'm not supposed to mention that. Sorry, bud. And she was a great family member and friends to others. Needless to say, with all of that, Molly was also the queen of time management. She kept me on my toes as a coach. Molly wasn't just talented, because everybody in this room knows that you need more than talent to succeed. It's good to have it, but it's not enough. She was well respected, a hard worker, and driven to succeed. She was a true team player in an often individual sport, and she gave her all with each race. And because of the person that Molly Huey was and still is today, everyone was willing to help. Everyone. In this room, we have Roger Bundy, Paul Cyphers, Ray Opal, Jim Lewis. All of you guys are part of what Molly's success is. Carla back there is one of her teammates. She helped opposing coaches, race officials, Bud and Kathy, Mimi, and the rest of her family and friends. We didn't have unlimited access to the internet to look up workouts or ideas of what to do or how to help, but we had a great network that got us through. Molly got people to run who didn't even like to run, right? Sometimes it was to fulfill a team because we had to have 5. And sometimes it was because we needed others just out running around on the course to cheer us on. People who probably never again sat at a track meet or ran around a cross-country course would have done anything to support and encourage Molly and her team. That's key. They didn't just support Molly. They helped us grow as a team, and we evolved as a sport when a lot of people didn't even know cross-country was a sport here, or track, but our track team was great as well. And Candy was on my first track team. Back then, especially in cross country, we were a family. RJ mentioned this, and I think it's a great attestment to people in sports. Everyone's family, they supported us, and those who didn't have a strong support system at home got a family to lean on from our team and learn from, and that included me. I'll spare you all the stories. I'll let her tell you. Lots of van rides with student-powered GPS. It's a little scary at times. Dressing incognito just to get access to state warm-ups. The nice policeman who just gave us a warning when we kind of got lost on the way to the state course. The snow throne that those guys over there helped build. Deaton Hill that we saw lots of miles of time on. Kathy's words of encouragement and those waffles and lasagna that we had to have in Bud's Sunday workouts. We won't talk about those because they didn't happen, right? The list is endless, and I won't share more, but I will close with this instead. Coaching Molly Huey made me the luckiest coach around, taking an athlete to state 7 of my first 7 coaching seasons, and by giving me a family in Salem when I was new here without my own family close by. So it is with great honor, respect, and great memories that I introduce Molly Huey Kelly.
Oh gosh, this is overwhelming. I feel so great. When I had to think of someone to introduce me, there was no question who that would be. So thank you, Coach. Thank you for those very kind words, and definitely a trip down memory lane. It's been so fun to relive some of my running days back here at Salem High School. Wow, I feel so honored to be standing here today, especially with all these amazing gentlemen also honored. I feel like I'm in good company tonight, and it feels so nice to have another female to add to that board in there. So I definitely want to thank Jim Lewis for this nomination. He spends a lot of time and energy into us runners and our running community from Salem. So Thank you so much, Jim. And he was one tough runner himself. Through this nomination, I've taken a lot of time to reflect on my running days here at Salem High School. And what a dream it was, looking back. I recall Mr. Day back in 6th grade saying, come on out for field day or whatever, sign up for a few events. And I did, just like everyone else did. And I was like, whatever. And I hadn't run a day in my life other than maybe up and down the basketball court. But I actually won all my races. And I actually beat a few boys. So it felt pretty good. And so I was excited to go home and tell my parents that evening. And I really think that was probably my kickstart to running, was back there in 6th grade. And so I tried out middle school, cross country and track, and had some fun with it, and had some little success here and there. And so then I went to high school, and that's where I acquired my special coach over here, Coach Niehaus. She's definitely one very special person to me. And actually, her contact in my phone remains Coach Niehaus. Sorry, Joe. She'll always be Niehaus to me. Maybe just like Huey feels so good tonight. It's so nice to hear my maiden name again. But that coach, she had no clue what she would do for me over these next 4 years we were about to start. We hit it off well, and I just can't thank her enough for all the time she put into me. She said she didn't do, there wasn't much research, but she was finding it. She was digging into training programs, talking to other coaches. I don't know, she did a lot, and they worked. She pushed me into being a state finalist 7 times. She took me to state meet in cross country my sophomore, junior, and senior years. I was actually sick my freshman year. Probably should have bucked up for that one, but I didn't. But I would say my best finish was at the state cross country meet my senior year. I ran in the snow, and I don't know what it was about the snow, but I think it was like that driving force, and I finished 27th place that year, and it was fun. But actually, I think looking back, maybe my most favorite cross-country achievement was winning those North Harrison Invitationals. They were like right next door to us, and it brought all my local competition, and I don't know, it was like the biggest race of the year, and I won for 3 straight years, so sophomore through senior year, so that was really fun. And then she also took me to the state meet in the mile for all 4 years I was here in high school. And I even got to, my senior year, go to the state meet with teammates. We ran our 4x400 relay there at the state meet, and Carla's here as one of my teammates, and that was so much fun. And then, but I have to say, my sophomore year was probably my best year in track. I probably had my best state finish that year, was 14th in the state in the mile run, and I also won all 3 events in the conference. So that was I probably hit my high in my sophomore year in track. But all those days running dump road, the dreaded dump road of like 6 miles, or I don't know what it was, but it was the longest one we had, and so we all kind of sighed when she announced that was our route for the evening. And out to Lake Celinda and back, and all those repeat 400 meters on the track. Oh my goodness, I definitely remember those well. But it seemed like it worked, and we found some success through all of that. So for her, I could not be more grateful. She stuck it out with me for all 4 years. She was my rock, for sure. I have to tell one story. We were at my sophomore state cross-country meet, and she had a wedding that day. And she was so conflicted on what she should do, right? Go to my meet or go to the wedding that was out of town. Like, I don't even remember where, but she flew out of that state meet after I ran in a helicopter. So she was definitely a dedicated coach. So you can't ask for much more than that. See if I can get through this one. So my hearing boys, I'm so glad you're here tonight to witness what an amazing coach your mom was. You have one awesome mama. So I have several other people to thank as well. teammates over the years. Carla Gessler was an amazing teammate. She pushed me hard. Amanda Grusbeck, Mara Marshall, Chandra Scherzinger, Tammy Stein. These are all maiden names, by the way. Kara Berryman, Jennifer Bissett, and those are just to name a few. But I also had some older boys on the cross-country team that were helpful to me. They actually, they were pretty good to me when I came in as a freshman. They taught me how to spit properly when I was running. So they taught me. I must have looked a mess after running, but they taught me, and I went home, practiced in the shower, and I mean, eventually I got that down, so I'm good now. But that was essential. I had so many followers over the years, so thanks to many of you out there for following me to all my events all over the state. But my two best buddies are here tonight, Heidi and Christy, and they showed up everywhere I went. And they had signs and T-shirts, and they even made a special song for me. They wrote their own lyrics to a song and would sing it, and it's like the sweetest thing. I think they could probably sing it today too, but we'll give them a free pass at the moment. And my sweet, lovely grandma Mimi is here. And she lived in Bloomington at the time, but she would travel to see me, take an hour, to get wherever she had to go to be there with me. And now she lives in Salem, so she can be closer to my parents. And it's such a joy to see her here today. So thanks, Mimi. And of course, I can't leave out my biggest fans, my parents. They were there for it all. They drove all over. They drove me to practice. My mom made this awesome food for me all the time, trying to get me to eat and stay healthy. My mom always met me at the finish line. I had a tendency to collapse. I don't know, maybe I left it all on the course. I have no idea, but she would be there. She'd carry me off, and she would help me in my recovery, which wasn't always pretty. So thank you, Mom. And of course, my dad. I'm sure you all know my dad and can hear him from, way over there. He was definitely the loudest one out there, but I'm pretty sure everyone from every school knew who my dad was. And I'm still not quite sure to this day how he was allowed on the track during meets, but somehow he was there every time, running back and forth and telling us to go faster when we thought we were going as fast as we could. But I think that encouragement helped, I think sometimes I won races for that extra push, so I can thank you for that. And as Coach mentioned earlier, he often took me out on Sundays on my off day, but it wasn't my off day. He took me to run repeat hills out at Lake Celinda, so I don't know, whatever that tallest hill was out there at the time, we would go up and down. Actually, I would go up and down, and he would tell me to go up and down. And then track season, he'd take me to the track on Sundays, and we'd do repeats over and over until I couldn't go any further, but it obviously was helpful. One funny story was we were camping one time, and we were out, he had me out running, and he's following behind me in the car. And, there's a little distance separating us, but a car pulls up, and I'm kind of getting a little worried, but they're like, "Hey, are you okay, ma'am?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And she was like, "Well, there's this guy following you back here." And I was like, "Oh, it's fine. It's just my dad." But this happened. We did plenty of runs where he was following me in the car. And one thing that really stands out in my head that I think worked was he would always encourage me to break the other team's spirit. So he would say, "Come on, Mom, break their spirit." And so that's why he took me on those runs. On the hills, he would want me to break their spirit on those hills, or he would want me to find a spot on the track and break their spirit. And I do think that actually worked. So anyways, thank you guys. And I have to say, one of the best things that maybe came out of all this was that I met my husband, Nathan Kelly, and who is also an excellent athlete himself. So I spent a lot of track days on the track running, and he was cheering me on, I was cheering him on, and little do we know, here we are, together, two cute little kids. So I sure hope we have a track runner between the two of them. We're crossing our fingers every day, but we'll see. No pressure, guys, but I'll keep y'all posted. But I truly found a love for running here in Salem. I went on to run cross country and track at Indiana State, and made a lot of running memories there. I have ran a couple of marathons since then, and running is still a huge part of my life. I like to run frequently if I can. And now I'm trying my hand at coaching. I've got Emma's little 6th grade track under my belt, where hopefully I can have a little inspiration like Mr. Day did for me. Hopefully we'll find a little athlete somewhere along the way. But my Salem High School experience was super special. So many relationships, memories, experiences that I will never forget. I absolutely love visiting Salem. Each time I do, I try to sneak a little run in around town, and it's such a joy. I still have people honk and, wave at me, and it just feels so nice. And I love seeing the new developments around town. Gosh, that running path to the Y is so cool. So what an excellent thing that you have. And I treasure the fact that I have records on the record board, and I'm happy that they still hold up. But I would love to see someone come through and run. I would love to see that, another young woman come through Salem High School and have the ability to be even better yet. So we'll see if that can happen. But this place holds a very special place in my heart. And, I can say at one point, I kind of ran this town for a little bit, right? I ran around everywhere. But it was fun. So thank you all.
Okay, our next inductee, we're going to have introduced by Gary Graves. It's going to be via a taped interview. And again, Mr. Lewis had a huge, well, he had the whole hand in that, and he arranged that, and been very helpful for a lot of stuff we've done with the Hall of Fame and things. So we're glad to have him helping out with that.
It's really funny about Mr. Lee, and you always called him Mr. Lee, because he wasn't a Bobby Knight kind of guy. He was there, and he was his person. He was a very distinguished gentleman, and he had a lot of poise, but he wasn't in your face, from my opinion. And I was only a mediocre runner for him. And in those times, there weren't that many athletic teams. And so you had track and cross country and basketball. And I was trying to think, I can't even think of any other sport really that they had at the time. We had in PE class and stuff like that. He did, in fact, teach physical education in addition to running, to the other. But he was always a very organized man. You didn't see it out in front, but as I think back on it, I think he was a very organized person. In PE classes, he would have all the equipment out. If we were to climb ropes, why, he had the ropes descending from this is in the old line hall there, and across the street from the Armory now, and where Arby's is. Track practices were the same way. You would go out, he would have exactly what it is that you were supposed to do. If you were a runner, he had, okay, you need to run so many quarter miles a day, you need to run so many 100-yard dashes, and don't forget to warm up, and those kinds of things. And he would give you a little, I'm trying to think of whether he gave you pep talks or not, but I don't remember if he get too many pep talks. I remember again, okay, today you're going to run up, you go run the course this time, or run 2 extra circles around the graveyard, or whatever it is that we were supposed to do in cross country in the spring. in his classes, and you'll ask probably about it, in his classes, he was always, I don't remember seeing Mr. Lee ever without a suit coat on, or a necktie on, or a pair of trousers. I'm sure in the wintertime he wore a jacket. He would be there, and I may talk about it again later, but I never heard much about Mrs. Lee, but I would all, at this time, at the practice, you know, I think, I wonder if she's got supper ready for him when he goes up, because he always stayed until the end of the practice. He never left. But he would monitor you. He had a car. And he didn't use it often, but he would go up and make sure that you were doing what you were supposed to do up at the cross-country course, and that sort of thing. I remember hearing stories about people who had done well, mostly in the context of this is what I expect you to do at this summer. this is how this guy got to be good, and so. If I have made an introduction to this particular talk, I would have talked about him being a mentor, a leader that someone would want to follow, because in looking back, I think that's, if I had a mentor early on in my life, it would have been him, plus a couple of other important people who I just admired because of leadership. I think leadership is the thing that was the crux of this particular documentary on Mr. Lee, because a young man like you, Jim, or me, or Charlie Rexroad, or who was also in my class, and Martin Stacy, you respond to someone like that because truthfully you want to be like that. That's what you're striving for. How do I make the people that I'm going to be with want to do what it is that they're doing? And they want to do it to the best that they can. And Mr. Lee and the men and women now in the school system, who are young people who want to do something in their life, they say, well, how did he do that in their mind? You don't even reflect on that, but you think about that. And all of the things that we may talk about here, those are the things that Mr. Lee was to me. I was just a routine guy. I wasn't the hero. I wasn't the number 3 guy in the state meet. I was the number 77 guy in the state meet. Mr. Lee always looked good, but looks weren't important to him. Performance was important to him. How you responded to him, how he adopted himself to you, you took that, and so that's pretty much the case. He didn't push people to look good, he pushed people to perform well. Certain people are gifted to be athletes, and gifted to be other things, but Mr. Lee, being the PE teacher, was able to find the guys who were athletic potential and asked them, will you come out? I recall him recruiting people who he found in a PE class to come out and participate in track cross country. Because that's not anything that takes some effort to do that. He went to the First Christian Church. There's a basement, there's a room in the basement of the First Christian Church named Ray E. Lee room. And he and Mrs. Lee's pictures was on the wall. He taught them in Sunday school class all of his life. Really, literally, almost all of his life. And that aspect he brought to his track teams was he didn't push religion, but he always lived the life of someone. And that's one of the things I think is key about this particular program that Mr. Lee had, that his leadership, his way he handled himself, the values that he had, the fact that he never cursed, never said anything mean to anybody, was calm and cool and collected. But he was an athlete by nature, and but his Christian faith was very obvious in his personality. That because my father had passed away and I didn't have a mentor to speak of, I would come back to Mr. Lee. And Mr. Lee lived up on North Main Street and right at the end of Tar Avenue or somewhere right up there on the corner. And I had a swing on the front porch. And I would go up there and Mrs. Lee would make cookies or something like that, and I'd sit on the porch and tell him what was going on up at West Point and how we trained and what they expected us to do and what's going on with you and what's going on in high school and what's going on with Paul. He had a son named Paul, and in his life, and it was always great to come back and share with him. And he accepted me just like he would accept another adult human being. You know, he treated me like I knew something, you know. That was great.
Our next speaker is Jason Petmeyer.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the nominees. Pretty big honor. I moved to Salem back in 1987, and I think Coach Mott's hit it on the head about RJ. He's got a big heart. Quick story about RJ. He probably thought he was off the hook, but I'm blessed to be part of a group chat on my texting, and RJ happens to be part of that group chat. And the whole time he was walking up and down here, choking up and getting emotional, I'm thinking, is that the same guy that I get texts from on my group chat? And I'm just happy for you. I'm proud of you, and I can see how big of a honor this was for you. So congratulations, and congratulations to everybody. It's good to see everybody tonight. I'm up here. I'm honored to be asked by my father-in-law to introduce him for his nomination to the Salem High School Athletic Hall of Fame. My wife and I are getting ready to celebrate 25 years of marriage. So I've been waiting 25 years to get a microphone in front of me to talk about my father-in-law. So I get to do that tonight. So he's started in Salem in the fall of 1969 after teaching 1 year at North Harrison, which I think was called North Central back then. After that, he was hired to teach at Brady Shrum, coached cross country, 7th grade basketball, and freshman track. And he moved to teach at the high school here in Salem in 1970, which was, Coach Hickey and I were talking, that was before we were born, so that's been a while. So became counselor at Salem Junior High in 1973, served as counselor and assistant principal, and he was principal at the middle school for 23 years, which is when I moved here. You were, I think you were assistant principal. 86 or 87, would you have been assistant principal? Big honor for him. I know something he's very, very proud of. The middle school basketball court was named after him during his final 8th grade game was back in 2017. So we got together as a family for that, and that was a very big honor and something I know he's very, very proud of. Continues to serve on the school and serve the school corporation, direct traffic at the elementary for dismissal during the day. He's also on the school board. So he retired and decided he wanted to still be part of the school system. And Candy had a comment today. One of the parents at the baseball game said the traffic never moved so fast until you started doing that. So you should be very honored about the traffic help that you give over there. Actively involved with keeping books for boys and girls games. Approximately 24 years has been keeping the book and has been the timer at the football games since 1970. So once again, a long, long time. Like I said, I'm very honored. In my opinion, nobody more deserving. He if you think of Salem, if I think of Salem, I think of my father-in-law. He's always willing to help. He's always been a part of this community and this school system for a long, long time. Let's see, what else did I put on here? He retired, and my boys have retired or have gone on from school, but they used to play AU games. Brody and Brandon. Be a Sunday morning at a 7 or 8 o'clock game, and Kenny and I are there, getting them ready, and all of a sudden I'd see Ray and Martha walk in. We're in Indianapolis, or we're in Columbus, or we're in Louisville, or wherever it might be, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, you're retired and you're here on a Sunday, but nothing means more to him than family, and I'm blessed to be a part of his family, and watching him take care of Martha since she's gotten sick is special to me, and he loves his family, and I'm blessed to be a part of it, and it's with great honor that I introduce Mr. Ray Opal for the Salem Athletic Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow. By the way, the check will be in the mail for this comment. Before I start, RJ, when he was at the middle school, I remember one hit he had at the middle school. Unfortunately, it was in the hallway. Let me just start out by, first of all, thanking J.D. Wade Swift and the Salem Lions News Network for the nomination for this honor, which is surprising. I'd like to recognize some people with me tonight. Good friends Richard and Robin Deaton, Charles and Mary Hunt. Mr. Hunt was my mentor, and I learned a lot from him being at the middle school. Most of it was good. Some of it was, because he's a pretty good jokester, but it was always great. So I learned a lot from him, and then I think it helped me be successful as a middle school principal. Also with Kristen and Kevin are here tonight, and Candy and Jason, and my grandsons. I got to think of their names. No, just kidding. Hayden, Brandon, and Rhodey over there. My granddaughter lives in Oklahoma City now. She's married and lives out there and works for the museum out there. And also they have with them some friends with them tonight, Allie and Abby. So glad to have them here tonight. John Hammond's here tonight. I brought him. And also Jim Lewis was one of my runners. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. First, I feel very fortunate throughout my career. There's been ups and downs. I was telling some folks earlier, my first teaching job, Martha and I came home from Middle Tennessee in spring break. Go into the house at my mother-in-law's, and she said something about a job. What are you talking about? Well, I think you got a job up here at the school. I said, well, first of all, I haven't applied for the job at a school. And so I called Mr. Asher, who was my high school principal. He said, yes, I have an opening for 2 positions at the school. I got one for you and one for Paul Robertson, who was my good friend. He said, what you need to do now is go down to the county superintendent's office and fill out an application and sign a contract. So that was my first teaching job. So no interview or anything. Of course, he remembered me as a student, and believe it or not, I was well behaved in school, so it might be hard to believe. So, of course, I knew if I didn't behave, I'd probably get it when I got home from my mother and my dad, so especially my mother. So, well, after 1 year there, I decided I wanted to coach, and Mr. Asher, as much as I appreciated him, my brother was coaching, and 8th grade coach said he can coach 8th grade basketball here next year. So I checked on that, and Mr. Asher didn't want 2 brothers coaching. So my brother was freshman coach, so I decided to move on. So that's when I came to Salem in 1969. I was hard to coach 7th grade basketball, 9th grade track. Believe it or not, there was a 9th grade track team that year. Matter of fact, there was a conference meet, 9th grade track conference. So, well, during the summer, I got a letter from the superintendent and said, would you like to coach cross country? It pays $300. I said, well, $300, you can't turn that down. $300, my goodness. So, and by the way, it came through the mail because there was no such thing as emails, and the phone lines were horrible. So, yes, I took the cross-country job. Well, the first cross-country meet, we weren't very good. Matter of fact, the runners were slow. Let me tell you how slow they were. We went to Bedford for our first meet, and there was a light rain, and before they finished, they started to rust. That's how slow they were. So, but we got better after that. I was fortunate because I was coaching freshman English, and I had a group of young men come along that were dedicated to running and being involved in track and cross country. They weren't in other sports. So let me just mention some of these guys. Bones Waller was one of them to start with. The Waller family, who's Mrs. Waller babysat for our girls, was like a grandmother to them. Then you got Jim Lewis, David and Mark Hall, the twins, Keith Rexroth, Bill Ackerman, John Blankenbaker, Mickey Belt, Dean Erickson. Dean Erickson, by the way, left us early after his junior year and went out to South Dakota and won the state meet out there in the 880 back in those days in 153. So that's how talented an athlete he was. And then Terry Longworth, Rick Blankenbaker, and Roger Bundy all would run for me. So now when we talk about guys being dedicated, these guys were dedicated. On Sunday evening, they convinced me to open up the gym, which I'm not sure that was legal, but we did anyway, and they went out and played town tag. I don't know what they were doing. They were chasing each other around town, chasing each other, playing games, playing tag, I guess, and running into clotheslines and things like that, but none of them got hurt seriously. So, and then, of course, they'd show back up here probably 8:30 or something like that. And so, okay, let's go home, guys. But as far as training, they would come in of a morning and we'd run distance in the morning. They'd go out and they'd run distance, for sure, maybe 3 or 4 miles in the morning. And then in the evening, we'd do speed work on the track. Now, speed work, I'd say anywhere, Jim, would that be right? Like, say, 20 to 24 quarter miles. So imagine you run a quarter, your heart rate gets up to 180 or something like that. When it gets back down to about 120, back to normal, let's go again. So that was our speed work. So that's how hard they worked. And no complaints or anything like that. They did it. And that's why they were successful. We won the conference in 71 and 72 and 73. Now, I'm not sure which year it was. Now, I shouldn't have done this, but I didn't like the way, I'm usually a pretty quiet, mellow person, but I didn't like the way a couple of boys were running. And I think I remember having the clipboard in my hand, and I threw it down towards their feet, but not in the course, about to speed up a little bit. And we ended up winning the conference meet that year. So maybe that helped, I don't know. Then in 72, we won the regional at Columbus. Now, back in 72 and 73, in those years, we went to Columbus and there was at least 30 teams there and only took the top 5. It wasn't like it is today where, you have all the meets. So we would have probably been really successful back then. So, but we qualified for the regional in 72, and then in 73, we went to the state meet. Let's see. I've written some other things down here. Okay, in 1970, like Jason said, I started operating the clock. It was on the flatbed truck in front of the scoreboard. So if it was raining, you just hoped you didn't get shocked or sprinkled. So we had to keep that in mind. But yeah, I did that for, actually in 1970, I did 1 or 2 meets, or 2 games rather. Then after that, I started doing it full time. So I enjoy doing that. It keeps me out of the crowd also, so I don't have to hear everybody yell about Brian or RJ, how they're coaching or things like that. So I don't have to hear that. So, one person I left out. I just now, when I was thinking about this, one important person in my life. We soon will be married 55 years. And she's followed along. I drug her everywhere. Kristen was 7 months old and went to the state track meet. Thank goodness there was a tent there for the Coaches Association, and because it was hot, and Martha was able to keep Kristen underneath of there. And then Kristen also went to the state cross-country meet when she was a year old. So drug her around. We've been involved with everything, you know, athletics, choir, band, every aspect of the school corporation. It's been our life, been my life, and she's gone around with it and not complained one bit. So, and then in between all this, I managed to referee basketball with Jim Ralston. As a matter of fact, if you saw any of the pictures, you saw a picture up there with the hat and the gun. A referee in the varsity game down at Henryville, and the Borden coach didn't like the way my partner and I were refereeing, and he blamed us because Henryville shot 22 free throws and they shot 2 or 3. Couldn't help it, the fact that Henryville took the ball inside and they wanted to shoot outside. So anyway, I got my picture in the evening news for that. So Jim Ross and I did that for several years. And then I did baseball also. Randy Barrett and I umpired baseball. We did a few sectionals in baseball. And then Dan Mullen said, Dan Mullen got our volleyball license, Dan and I did. And then he got me involved in college volleyball, so we refereed about 2 or 3 years of high school volleyball, then we moved on to the college ranks, and we did a lot of small colleges, Hanover, Manchester, Anderson, Franklin, and those schools. And then I've been a track starter for 40-some years, and I've worked the state meet 3 or 4 times, cross-country meet also. One thing I'm going to have a hard time with this. I miss riding the basketball games with Derek Smith. Him and I traveled everywhere, all the boys and girls basketball games, football games, and great companionship, and I really do miss that. As you can see, school has dominated our life, but you know what? I wouldn't change it for anything. We don't like to travel. We traveled some, but not a whole lot. We've been to Yellowstone a couple of times in Maine, and those, but traveling is not one of my forte. But going to middle school activities, watching middle school kids perform and do those has been our life. And to sum up, I had an administrator several years ago. I was telling him about all the activities we were going to, the things we were doing. He said, "You need to get a life." And I said, the school is our life. So thank you for the nomination. I appreciate it. And thank you, guys. Thank you for me getting through that. I am an emotional person. I know whenever we did the Veterans Day program, I have to speak at the end, and that was, you just saw how I behaved at the Veterans Day program. And I keep thinking, how can I get over that? And I don't know. So, okay, this next person is a colleague and friend. Paul Cyphers. He graduated in Salem High School in 1957, which was the first year that this high school opened. He'd been inducted into the Salem High School Academic Hall of Fame. Now, he lived in the country, I've been told. He would like to run cross country, do something like that, but he lived at Louisville, York, and living on a farm, there was just no way for him to get back and forth to participate in sports activity. But after graduating from Purdue, he served as a statistician and things like that for the athletic program for the teams. As you well know, if you've been to any track and cross-country meets, he serves as the official timer and head timer for track and cross-country, and I'm not sure how many, he can tell you how many years he's done that, but it's been forever. He became athletic director in 1971-72 school year, athletic director and assistant principal. in 71 and 72. And I forgot to ask him how many years, and he can tell you that also. But during that time, he added girls basketball, track, cross country, and tennis. Now, I had one picture up here. I know you may not have seen it, but I was at the track and holding a little doll. Didn't have any clothes on. Cecil Smith took a picture of me because Kristen and my kids all usually went to practice with me, and so naturally I had to take care of the doll or whatever. So, but we had a center track back then during spring break. Paul and I would drag the track, roll the track, drag the track, roll the track. We did that, for 2 or 3 days probably, something like that. And we probably had one of the better cinder tracks around back then. Now, before I bring him up here, he's going to tell you that he's never coached, right? That's not true. In 1972, at 5 o'clock in the morning, Kristen decided she was going to be born. So I had to call Paul and Mr. Lewis and say, I won't be able to make it to the cross-country meet today. You're going to have to coach. So Paul, Cyphers, and Homer Lewis were the cross-country coaches that day. And unfortunately, there weren't any emails, so I didn't know any results forever because telephones were out of, didn't have cell phones or anything like that. So it's an honor to introduce our next inductee, Paul Cyphers.
Ray just gave my talk. Seriously. Talking about this cross-country team that went to the state, Ray couldn't make one of the practices and asked me to cover it for him. I was AD at the time. He said, it's a light workout. The kids know what to do. So I did, and they worked out. And this light workout produced 2 kids vomiting at the end of the run. That was his light workout. And they did this on their own without him there pushing them or anything. He's right, I never coached. I never participated athletically because living 18 miles out in the country, one-car family back in the 50s, most of the upper township kids, boys, did not get to participate. But I enjoyed the athletics. I've always been a runner since middle school, grade school, Little York's grade school. On up, at the age of 55, I started doing Triple Crowns in Louisville. A Triple Crown is a 5K, a 10K, and a 10-miler. I probably did 12 to 14 half marathons, and at the age of 60, I did a full marathon, which is 26.2 miles. Coming back to Salem as a teacher, new teachers, you get assigned extracurricular activities. Well, new teachers get things like booster bus, cheer block. Back then, the cheer block was 10 by 10. Designs, we had capes, black and gold capes, so you could do designs and layouts and so on. So that's, he said 9 years riding the booster bus to all away games. Since you're at the games, you also get to help with statistics or filming or whatever. After 9 years, they needed an athletic director, and they tied athletics and the assistant principalship together. Well, I had my administrative license, but of course I'd never coached or anything. I was approached. Neither head coach wanted to be the athletic director, so I accepted and took the position. And as Ray Opal said, that was 71, 72. And so for the next 5 years, I taught 3 classes, was athletic director and assistant principal. And then we hired a basketball coach, Bill Dunn, who needed to fill in some space. They didn't have enough classes for him. So they let him be the athletic director, and I picked up discipline. So now I'm handling discipline and teaching a couple of classes. So And after Bill left, I picked up athletic director again. So now all of a sudden I'm full-time. I'm handling discipline and the athletic director. And this went on for a total of 18 years. So I enjoyed every bit of that. But at 18 years, being at school in the wintertime 4 nights a week, and in the fall 3 nights a week, a math teacher was leaving who taught calculus, pre-calc, and algebra 2. And I jumped at the chance. So I went back to the classroom. Of course, I hadn't taught calculus, hadn't had calculus since Purdue, like 40, 35 years ago. And at Purdue, they push it at you so hard, you memorize to get through. So I spent the summer studying 3 to 4 calculus books, learning or relearning, however you want to call it, the course. And so I enjoyed my last 9 years very much also. Everything I've done, I've enjoyed. I love the classroom, I love the students, I love the athletics. Handling discipline, I did not mind that. When you're handling discipline, you have to learn not to take things personal. You know, they're angry, not necessarily at you, but they've got to take it out on someone. So I learned not to let it bother me. I learned to never raise your voice, talk calmly, and they're more apt to. If I'm going around the square and one of the kids gives me a one-fingered salute, I think, if he feels that way about me, I must have done something right. And that's just the way I felt about it. So everything I've done, I've enjoyed doing. Like I say, the discipline, the classroom, going back to the classroom. So I feel very lucky to have ended up here at Salem. I plan to stay 2 years because I student taught in a very large school in Indianapolis, 1,900 students. It was mixed race, 1,900 students. It's almost vocational. It was so vocational that my senior math class in student teaching, I had 9 students out of 1,900. So that gives you an idea of how vocational it was. So everything I've done, I've enjoyed doing. And I plan to stay at Salem for a couple of years and move on to a big system. But each year I said, well, these kids will be seniors next year. I can't leave yet. I've got to have them. And each year there's a group I didn't want to miss. So I stayed. Next thing you know, I'm here, I'm on the city council, I'm very involved in the community, belonging to several organizations, and I feel so lucky for the life I've lived and being here at Salem. Thank you.
We're going to bring Jason Petmeyer back up.
Just what you wanted, another dose of me. So it's with great honor that I was asked by Miss Shelley to talk about Mr. Smith. And, you know, when I was thinking about doing this, I thought, man, it's going to be a piece of cake. You get a good dinner, you get all your friends, you get to hang out, you're not going to get emotional, and well, that's pretty well out the door, so I apologize. So, as my father-in-law mentioned, Derek was a big part of our lives. I was blessed enough when I was a senior at Salem back in 1992. And I'd like to thank Mr. Cyphers for giving that passing grade in trigonometry class in that first hour class. So, or else I might not be here now. But Mr. Smith was our baseball coach my senior year, and he and I just hit it off. I was in his government class, his econ class, and my kids just went through it not too long ago, and I think he was still teaching back then like he taught now with his overhead projector and his lecture and his notes, and just always really meant a lot to me and my family. Played baseball for him. He was supposed to be pretty good that year. Unfortunately, we weren't as good as we thought we were going to be, so we didn't give him a very good first year. I think we ended up right around 500, but we always kept in contact. And I think the main reason we did, he was a baseball guy, and I was blessed enough about 4 years ago to be selected to be the baseball coach here at Salem, and something that means a lot to me. And I try to carry on what the prior coaches do. And since I've taken this over, one thing that I've noticed, and because I'm not a teacher, I'm I'm an insurance guy. I'm not in the school system, so to speak. But the time that some of these coaches take with underprivileged kids, or I shouldn't say underprivileged, don't have as much as some of the other kids, some of the stuff like RJ was talking about, it's amazing to me what some of our coaches, not only at Salem, but all around, because we're all kind of a fraternity. You know, we all kind of know all the coaches at the different schools. Just the time that they take with the kids that maybe aren't as well off as some of the other kids. And that's something I was blessed. I didn't have to deal with that. I was born in a good family. I'm married into a good family. But it's just really opened my eyes. And I thought Mr. Smith was good about that too. You know, he was so good about his pictures. And it didn't matter if it was the prom, you know, taking pictures of the king and queen, or if it was the kids that maybe weren't as well off. He was always at their events as well. And that just always meant a lot to me from afar, just knowing the time he took for those pictures and for those kids. And the kids, no matter where they ranked, no matter if they were first in their class or last in their class, they always held a special place in his heart. And I just thought a lot of him, as I do a lot of our teachers that don't get credit for that. You see a lot of bad things about teachers, but I see it firsthand now being involved with the program and seeing how some of these guys treat these kids. And Mr. Smith was good about that as well. I asked Shelley to write down a few comments on what I could say tonight, and I'll try my best to get through this. His favorite baseball quote was, "Baseball is 90% mental, and the other half is physical." And that's a Yogi Berra quote. And the funny thing, the ironic thing about that is when I first took the job or got the job here, we do shirts, kind of practice shirts. And every year I get the seniors to think of a quotation to put on the back of a shirt, famous quote. I never knew that was Coach Smith's favorite quote, but my first year of coaching, that's the quote that the kids chose to put on the back of our shirts. So I thought that was pretty ironic when you sent that to me. So she says our favorite date for our anniversary was a weekend of baseball in Cincinnati. We would take turns keeping score in the program. And in 2016, he took me to the opening day to celebrate my birthday. It was the only time I remember leaving before the end of the game because it was so cold that year. So that's kind of a rule we've got in my family too. We don't really leave. Now, one year we did leave. One disagreement Coach Smith and I had was he was a Reds fan, and I'm a big Cubs fan, and we always butted heads on that, big time butted heads. Always in good fun, of course, but we did leave early one year, and the boys always give me grief. The Cubs were behind, and I was upset, so we left, and the next thing I know, they had a bunch of home runs when we left, didn't they? So the kids never let me live that down. So we don't leave anymore. He did coach the last sectional winning baseball team, Wayne Alexander senior year, Hank, 1995. 96. Okay, and Mr. Hammond, assistant coach, I believe. Yeah. Yes. That was our last sectional championship. Shelley says he loved baseball and he loved his players. And it's funny, I asked Shelley in this email if the other day we had a ceremony and for Mr. Smith. Can you bring me my phone? I'm sorry. And I asked Shelley to throw out the first pitch. And if nobody saw it on Facebook, it was very well done. She did a good job. We had a really nice ceremony dedicating the field. Coach Wheaton and the school board decided to dedicate the field. It's called Derek Smith Field now. Thank you. It's called Derek Smith Field now, and they. JD read something I thought was very touching at the ceremony. I wanted to read this again. 5 months ago, on November 5th, 2021, we lost a former head coach of the Salem Lions baseball team to cancer. He was a son, a brother, a husband, a teacher, a coach, an administrator, a colleague, a mentor, a friend, an encourager, a photographer, a jokester, the voice of the Lions. But to all of us, he was the best. And then it goes on to say we dedicated the field to Mr. Smith last year, and then we had our ceremony this year. It'll always be called the Derek Smith Field, and we're very honored to play on that. He thought a lot of Salem baseball. He thought a lot of our program. I've never seen a guy, Coach Hickey and I talk a lot, we do the radio sometimes together, a guy that can take pictures, announce, and keep stats all while the game's going on is the most amazing thing you can ever imagine. And anybody that ever just tries to keep the scoreboard alone while you get caught up in the game, you watching, you're rooting for your team, whatever it might be, but he was amazing. And I know Kenny and I all the parents that have had athletes go through have such great memories because of Mr. Smith and the pictures he took and the stuff he put on social media. I was very honored to know him. I miss him. I miss him a lot, and I know a lot of us do. I'll close with this. Our baseball boys wanted to do something this year to honor Coach Smith, and we did some shirts, put his name on the back of some shirts, but they wanted to do something that could kind of always be remembered. And usually on the back of our hats, we have a line on the back of our hats. And I don't know if you guys saw, or most of you saw it on Facebook. This year we put D. Smith on the back of our hats. And I had some extras, and I had probably 50 extras that I decided to order. And I'm thinking, there's probably a lot of people in the community who'd like to have those. And to me, kind of proves what kind of guy he was. I've still got people texting me. I've still got people calling me wanting hats. I was out of hats in about 3 days after I put it on social media. And that tells me a lot about the kind of guy he was. You should be so proud of your husband. And I know I am. I was proud to know him. Having him inducted and giving me the honor to talk about him, and I appreciate that. And like I said, we all miss him. And God bless all of you, all your families. And just know that he's in our heart. And as a baseball coach, we're trying to carry on his name and his tradition. And Coach Whedon and the school board renaming the field, he's always going to be a part of Salem. And I want you guys to understand that and know that. So thank you for allowing me to talk about him a little bit. And I'm going to stop being emotional now and move on because I'm the last speaker, I think, Hank. So it'll be the nod and everybody can go home after me. So thank you very much for listening to me. Appreciate it.
We also got a little plate ordered that'll say Derek Smith, voice of the Lions, and so this is also going to go in the trophy case in our Hall of Fame room. So it'll sit up there with all our sectional, regional trophies, girls basketball, semi-state, state runner-up trophies. So we're going to have that there. So everybody comes in here will see, who our voice of the Lions was, and well deserved. And he was good. I've never seen, I was kind of smiling at JD during baseball. Of course, JD's also trying to do the filming thing and all that, but you can see he was stressed out. And Boone's doing softball right now, and he's trying to do the book and the announce. And I know he kept calling, what was he calling? Gabby Hayes. Yeah, he was going back to his old times actors, so he struggled there, but. And like I said, that's not even taking pictures, but just my maturity level. Most people know me, I'm not real mature. And I like to mess with people. And I'd sit up there in the baseball and softball and throw sunflower seeds at Derek, just trying to get him to mess up. And you couldn't get him to mess up. I mean, he would just sit there and do his announcing, do this, do that, turn it off, yell at me, say a few words to me that you guys probably know, and then go right back at it again. I'd throw some more at him. So, it was always business when we were up there working. I will say Nathan Kelly's name got brought up, so I got to bring up a story there. You're not up. He was a tremendous athlete, one of the fastest guys I've seen come through and jump and everything else, track and everything. I had the opportunity, my first couple years here, I was coaching basketball assistant coach. And there was another young coach that was a head coach, and we're in sectional. We've been your senior year. I don't know if you remember all this, but so we're playing against West Washington, and he wasn't looking real athletic. Went up and down the floor real fast. And so head coach pulls him out, says, I think his ankle's hurting, tape him up. So I give him the side. So let me see it, let me take your ankle up. And, he's like, it's not my ankle, it's my calf. I was like, you all right? He goes, yeah. And so, I kind of felt around. I had no clue what I'm feeling for. Kind of like if I pop the hood of the engine, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I feel like I got to do that. So, all right, talk him into it again, let's get out there. It's a championship game. So he goes back up. He runs up and down the floor a few more times. And he's hurting. He comes back out again. He says, it's my calf, so I'm going to try to tape his calf. He goes, no, something's popping. So I go over there, and he says, put your finger right here. And so he has me put my fingers right here beside it on his calf there, and he flexes his foot, and pop, 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 and you feel stuff moving around in there. Of course, like I said, I was about 23 years old, just got done playing college ball, and young and a little aggressive, I guess, and I was like, oh, it's nothing, mine does that all the time. So Nathan doesn't want to feel like a sissy, so he's like, oh, really? He goes, really? I was like, yeah. He goes, okay. He goes out there and tries it again. This poor guy, he looks like a guy hit by a car, but he can't get him down. So finally he comes out, and we can't keep up with him. We end up losing the game. So Monday morning, I just happened to be coming around first, second period or something like that. I come around before all the renovation, the student services was open there, and he probably don't remember this, but I remember he's coming out, just signed in. He'd been at the doctor's, and he's on crutches, and Molly's carrying his books for him. I see him on crutches. I said, what's up? He said, oh, I went to the doctor. I said, oh, what'd they say? It's broke. Of course, I'm like, oh. He goes, you might want to get yours checked out. So my medical career went down from that point. But anyway, a long time ago. But it was a real privilege. This is one of my, I say this every time, and I mean it, this is one of my best honors as far as AD, things I enjoy doing the most, getting people that deserve to be up here, that's made impact on our athletic and beyond our athletic. Most of these people have done more than just, throw a ball far or shoot the ball well or run fast. They've done a lot of things for our communities and for just our kids coming up, and little kids watching them perform and wanting to be like them. So this is a great honor for me, and I really cherish it. I had the privilege of being here for a couple of years to see Molly run, and just tremendous athlete. And of course, I saw RJ coming up through middle school, and then had the privilege of being able to work with him as AD, and he was the head coach and did a tremendous job. The stuff that Coach Motzinger said behind the scenes, unbelievable. You can't even explain all the stuff that people don't see that's behind the scenes. But then with Ray and Paul and then Derek, opportunity when, especially as I came AD, but I've known them forever now. But once I got the AD role, there's a lot that goes to it, and all three of those guys, I don't know, how I would have got done without those three guys. Their help on everything. And Derek was also the principal when I came in as AD, so that was very beneficial for me as well. So the stuff that, if one of them says they can't make a track meet, I'm stressing because I really haven't learned how to do it yet because I just let them do it. And then Derek, covered all the, senior stuff and just everything that he did, keeping score, announcing, didn't have to worry about that stuff. So, just very privileged and thankful. Before we're going to close here, but before everybody gets moving around, I would like the inductees as soon as we get done right here. If you would just meet up right here and we'll get one picture of all you guys, I'd appreciate that. Then families, if you guys want to do photos or do whatever, I also encourage you to check out the Hall of Fame room. If you go in the lobby, just as soon as you just turn left out there, and there's going to be right there beside you, and the left is that's our Hall of Fame room. And the plaques that they were given today is a replica of the plate that's on the wall in the Hall of Fame room that'll be there forever. So you might want to check that out, and if you want to get pictures in there, that's fine. You can do that as well. So appreciate everybody coming out today, and thank you for all our presenters and the words that you spoke, and thank you for our inductees, and congratulations.
No, I was thinking the whole time. It's coming. It's coming.
Well, of course, that would leave you alone. So.
Sometimes.